Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show. The show is about conversations that matter, and we're so excited to have yet another stellar individual on the line. She is quite a transformer, a change agent. Lori Nikkel, CEO of Second Harvest. She is recognized for her many wonderful works in the leadership role in food rescue across Canada. And as Canada's largest food rescue organization, Second Harvest rescues more than 50 million pounds of unsold food from across the entire supply chain, redistributing it to about a network of 370 plus nonprofit partners in the GTA, and facilitates surplus food exchange across Canada, fulfilling a unique environmental and social mission of no waste, no hunger. Please welcome Lori. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Nikki. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for your time. And Lori, I am so honored to have you on the show. Thank you very much for everything you do. And I know there's quite a story behind the story. So would you please tell us a little bit about your background leading up to what you're doing today?
Sure. So I come to this business very organically. As a child, I had a pretty abusive childhood, and I moved out when I was 15. And when I was 18, I met the man of my dreams, of course, because when you're 18, that's what you do. And I quickly had 3 boys, gorgeous boys, Connor, Patrick, and Liam. And that relationship was not a healthy one. So there was an addiction issue that was not mine. It became somewhat abusive, and it abruptly ended when I was about 28. So there I was, 28, with 3 children. I was a waitress and a bartender, and I took in, I run a little home daycare. But, you know, I didn't have a university education, and I was street smart, but I wasn't academically, gifted. So I was very, very, very scared. There's a lot of fear when you don't know how you're going to pay the rent and feed the kids, and that was no different for me. There's a risk every time you buy food. I was terrified about how we were going to get food. And I was asked to run the child nutrition program at my son's school. And basically that meant I had to feed 365 students every school day. And it had to be like 3 food groups. And they gave me very limited money because there's really no money for student nutrition in Canada. We don't have a national child nutrition program.
Right.
But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I had to become an entrepreneur really quickly. I had to figure out, how do I raise money? How do I manage volunteers or staff? How do I make sure I can access good, healthy food? And that's what I did. So on top of my 3 other jobs, my 4th job was at the school, which was a volunteer job. But I also knew I could access a lot of food that way. And it was awesome. So what I found was there was a lot of single mothers that were volunteering at the school. And they were all going through difficulties of their own. Some of them were just terrifying. My story, it doesn't seem so bad when I compare it, and you should never compare anything, but it was just really just so sad. And what we found really quickly was when we got together, we gained this thing called confidence because we had belief in ourselves, like in each other. And that allowed us all to grow in a very different way. And it allowed me to grow in a way that I could now be the CEO of a place called Second Harvest. And I'm very passionate about food recovery, because one of the first places that I went knocking on doors was to retail and restaurant and asking them for surplus food for these 365 kids. And I was astounded by the amount of food there was. So what people are calling waste, it's not waste. It's only waste because people throw it away. It's good, healthy, wonderful food. So that's a little bit about my background.
Wow. You're quite a woman of strength, and I find when you're in a situation and your back is up against the wall, I find it really draws out the best of you in terms of your creativity. And I could hear that that's what happened when you were put in this great position of responsibility. Coming up with healthy food for so many children in a school, you have to really think quickly and think creatively. And that means putting together a strategy to find out how you could do that on a limited budget. So kudos to you for creating that path. So now, people are seeing this incredible organization that you've put together through the school, and then it kind of propels you into another dimension, right?
Exactly. So I think my greatest gift is just I love everyone, right? I think we're all connected, and we're in it for the right reasons. And so I did that I think I actually did that for about 6 years or 7 years. But while that was happening, I was also working other jobs. And I was very good at this thing called community development that I had never heard of before. I got hired to be a community development worker for student nutrition programs and an advocate in the city of Toronto. And it was essentially like the stepping stone. So I started by running it, and then I moved up a little bit and started, building skills for people and providing training and just kind of really networking them together, because the reality is people know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They just need to learn from each other. So it's great when they can just share best practices as opposed to someone coming in and saying, do this, do that. I don't find that very beneficial often. And that's kind of how I live my life. It's who do you know and how can they help us?
Absolutely. I kind of live by that way of thinking as well. It's like everyone has an idea and everyone has something to contribute, but maybe it just takes a catalyst to get it going, and you seem to have been that catalyst at the right time to put all the pieces and places and people together. So yeah, it's a wonderful gift.
They need to believe in themselves. I think what's really happened, and this is specific to women, they they get lost. You get lost when you have children, you get lost when you get married, and you forget who you intrinsically are. And so sometimes you just have to get back to that place. And that's all about building your confidence and your belief in yourself, and then being amazed at really what you can accomplish.
Right, and to take those abilities and gifts and to empower others like you've been able to do, Lori,
exactly.
Which is phenomenal. So what I wanted to ask you was, in terms of the statistics throughout the GTA, and I have my own understanding, working in the Mississauga community, I've been connected with Seva Food Bank and also with the Mississauga Food Bank. And I know that this is a very critical time for many households in Mississauga where food insecurity is, I think, over 100,000 people in Mississauga are affected by food insecurity. What would you say the situation is right across the GTA, and whatever your experience has been in terms of people and food insecurity?
So we know in Toronto 20% of Torontonians are food insecure, and Toronto has the distinction of being the child poverty capital of Canada.
Wow.
Now, I will say a couple things, and it's great what we're all doing in providing food, but poverty isn't about food, and food security isn't about food.
Okay.
We're just we're bridging a gap in a moment. But for people to come out of poverty, it's a much bigger issue. It's about housing. It's about economics. It's about having a good job. It's about confidence. Yeah. So we're just kind of bridging that gap, and I always make that very clear to everybody that this is not solving food insecurity at all. This is supporting people with food.
Okay. And Second Harvest, tell us how that kind of came into being, and what kind of a regular kind of work day would look like for you, or how would you put the process together to salvage as much unsold food as you do?
Well, a couple ways. So Second Harvest has been around for, I think this is our 35th year. And it started with just a common sense solution to people needing food and knowing that there's surplus food places and connecting those dots. In the past 4 years, we've kind of we've always focused on the no hunger piece, but now we're really looking at our dual mission as a whole. What is the no waste piece? And why is no waste important? And so we've done some research. We did some actually brilliant research. It's called The Avoidable Crisis of Food Waste, to really better understand where all this is happening. And it's right across the supply chain. And it's usually further up the supply chain at processors, manufacturers. And why it's critical that this food gets captured is because when it goes into landfill, it creates methane gas. And it's a direct contributor to climate change. And if food waste were a country, the GHGs it emits is second only to China and the U.S. So it's huge. And it's a solvable problem. So we've got like a planet to protect, and we've got people to feed. And this is the way, the problem we want to solve is how do you stop food waste? And the problem we really want to solve is, as a charity, how do you go out of business? How do you fix the problem? And so we're looking at it in both ways.
Right. Okay. Lori, what I wanted to also ask you is the foodrescue.ca. It's an online platform. Can you tell us a little bit about the premise of that?
Absolutely. So Second Harvest, we are a logistics business in many ways. We run a fleet of trucks, refrigerated trucks. We are unique in that we are 90% of the food is perishable. We really focus on produce, dairy, and protein because those are the foods that are hard to access when you're low income. I know that personally. I think about 72% of our food is that. And we are doing direct delivery in the GTA. When we have huge amounts of food, like someone will call us and say we have 20 tractor-trailer loads of milk, and it's in BC, then we network it into whatever system exists. So foodrescue.ca came about because really we are a networker. We're that one place you can call and we'll find a home for your food. And it doesn't make sense for us to send a truck to places in Toronto that have small amounts of food. For example, Starbucks is our national partner. So we're not going to send a truck to go pick up at Starbucks across Toronto because it doesn't make sense. We're an environmental organization as well. So foodrescue.ca was that beautiful connector. I call it the eHarmony of food. So there's surplus food somewhere. There's always someone that can access that food. And so this is that connector. And to date, we're across Ontario, and we launched in British Columbia in June of last year, and we're just on the precipice of launching this system across Canada. And it's really to enable great organizations to do more.
Excellent. So if I am, say, for example, a local restaurant, and I have a vast amount of waste at the end of the day, and it just ends up in the dump, I would connect with you through foodrescue.ca, list myself as someone is available, and then you'd make kind of the connections of who can come and pick up the surplus. Is that how it would work?
Kind of. So you would be you're the restaurant, and you'd have to apply as a restaurant or any food business, and as a social service organization and nonprofit. So you have to register, because you have to meet terms and conditions that are about health and safety and food safety, especially as a restaurant, right? Like
this is all good to know.
Stuff. Yeah. And so once you've registered and we've said, yep, you're in, you would post what food you have. So you could have 2 sandwiches. And then a local agency in your neighborhood is also been registered on the system. They would see it, and they'd go, okay, I want that. And then they would just claim it. And then they would go and pick up the food.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a vast amount. Like, it's amazing. Small amounts are still needed. And what we find is you might have a few areas of small amounts, and you might have one agency just going to 6 different places, and it'll take them about a half an hour. And then they end up with a larger amount. So no amount is too small.
No amount is too small. Fantastic. And Lori, how has your life been transformed by pursuing this passion work?
Well, I get to pursue this passion work. I'd say that's it. I'm very lucky in terms of I get to live my mission every day. I get to laugh every day. Like, I get to have fun with this. I get to meet wonderful people.
Yes.
So I feel very lucky. It started off like I wasn't in the greatest spot, but this has allowed me, it's often our greatest difficulties that create our greatest strengths. And this has allowed me to do that. But the truth is, it's not about me. It's about how are we saving the world? How are we helping our communities? Like, take me out of the situation. I'm a systems builder. I want to build systems that exist if I'm here or not, so that this great work can always happen.
You pass it on and you create a legacy, Lori.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. So, Lori, how can people reach you on social media?
At Second Harvest CA and on our Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And you can go to our website at www.secondharvest.ca. And if you are a food business or if you are a nonprofit that needs food, then please go register at www.foodrescue.ca.
Excellent. Lori Nikkel, CEO, Second Harvest, thank you so much for your time. We are so privileged to know the type of person you are and what you've done to just be a change agent for a community, for communities across Canada and spreading globally. So thank you for that, and I look forward to hearing of the I think more initiatives are going to be coming out of the food rescue and all the other great things you're doing. So thank you again for your time. You've been listening to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show, and we've had the privilege of listening to Lori Nikkel, CEO of Second Harvest. So please reach out to her on her social media outlets, and looking forward to hearing more of the great things that Lori's doing. Thanks again, Lori. All the best to you.
Thanks, Nikki.
You're welcome. Bye for now.